It's all the fault of the insert name here is the eternal call of the bigot. They should just leave. But what happens when these groups do leave? Final Solution by Mike Resnick. Read by Carl. It started with the Jews. One day they announced they were immigrating to the world of New Jerusalem. Just like that. They didn't even so much as buy or leave. We are tired of being underappreciated and over persecuted, said their statement. We gave you the Old Testament and the Ten Commandments, relativity and quantum mechanics, the polio vaccine and interstellar travel, Hollywood, Miami Beach, and Sandy Koufax, the Six-Day War of 1967, and the 23-Minute War of 2041. And frankly, we've had it with you guys. Live long and prosper, and don't call us, we'll call you. And the next day they were gone, every last one of them. It was June 21st, 2063. I still remember my friend Bert passing out Earth, Love It or Leave It t-shirts to all the guys at work, and saying we were well rid of them, and now things are going to get better in a hell of a hurry. Then 3 months later, Odingo Nukama announced that the Kikyo people were leaving for Beta Bapiscium 4, and then Joshua Galawanda took the Zulus to Iceland 1 or 2, almost before you could turn around. Africa was empty, except for a few Arabs in the north, and a handful of Indians who quickly booked passage back to Bombay. Well, this didn't really bother anyone very much, because nobody really cared about Africa anyway, and suddenly there were 2 billion fewer mouths to feed, and some of the game parks started showing signs of life. But then Moses Smith demanded the U.S. government supply transportation to all African blacks who wanted to leave, and Earl Mingus, the pride of Mississippi, who had just succeeded to the office of president, agreed on the spot, and suddenly we had an all-white nation. Well, almost all-white. Actually took another year for Harvey running course to convince all his fellow Emirates to join him on Alfad 3, which he renamed the Little Bighorn. Now, said Bert, popping up with a beer, if we can just get rid of the Hispanics and maybe the Catholics. The Hispanics headed off from Madrid 3 2 months later, and Bert threw a big party to celebrate. I find it proud to be an American again, he announced, and hung a huge flag outside his front door. Of course, it wasn't just the blacks and Jews and Hispanics who were leaving. It wasn't just Africa and America that were getting emptier. The Chinese left the next year, followed by the Turks, the Bulgarians, the Indians, the Australians, and the French Polynesians. It didn't even make headlines when the Cook County Democratic machine went off to the Daily World, which figured to be the only planet that was ever turned into a smoke-filled back room. Great, proclaimed Bert. We finally got room to breathe and stretch our legs. Things kind of settled down for a couple of years then, and life got pretty easy. We hardly noticed that the Brits, the Germans, the Russians, the Albanians, the Sunnis, and the Shiites had all gone. Wonderful, said Bert, on the day the Greeks and the Pakistanis left. Somebody was still wear gas masks because of the pollution, and the water still ain't safe to drink. We ain't got over a little problem with 8 Mile Island. That was the problem that turned into 32 quarter-mile islands. But by God, what's a little inconvenience compared to a world run by and for 100% pure Americans? I suppose we should have seen the handwriting on the wall when the NFL moved the Alaska Timberwolves and the Louisiana Gamblers, the last 2 franchises still on Earth, to the Quinellas cluster. Then there were other little hints too, like using downtown Boston to test out the new J-bomb, or the way the Great Lakes finally turned solid with sludge. That was when the real immigration started, right in their backyard, so to speak. Nevada, Michigan, and Florida were the first to go. Then New Hampshire and Delaware. Then Texas. Then it was Katie barred the door. For the longest time, I really thought California would stick around, but they finally located the world with a 9,000-mile beach and a native populace that specialized in making sandals and cheap gold jewelry, And suddenly, the United States of America began at St. Louis and ended about 60 miles west of Council Bluffs. Let him go, counseled Bert. We never needed him anyway. As there's that just much more for the rest of us, right? As if things kept happening. The ice ball cap slipped south all the way to Minneapolis. Mount Kilimanjaro started pouring lava down onto the uh, Serengeti Plain. The Mediterranean bubbled away. The National Hockey League went bankrupt, and people kept leaving. That was almost 10 years ago. There were only 8 of us left now. Bert was pressed into duty as war president this week because Ernie Jenkins hurt his wrist and can't sign any documents. And Sybil Miller, who was supposed to succeed Ernie, has a period and says she doesn't feel like it. We haven't gotten any mail or supplies in close to a year now. They say Earth is too polluted and dangerous to land on anymore. So Bert figured it was his presidential duty to take 1 or 2 of our remaining ships back to Mars base and pick up the mail and bring Arnie back his yearly supply of cigarettes. Stopped by Valvis this morning to return a sucker wrench I had borrowed and saw a letter addressed to me sitting on his desk. So I opened it and read it. I've been mulling it over and decided I was all wrong about this after all. I mean, being world president is all well and good, but not when your only duties are taking out the garbage and picking up the mail. A world president needs an army and navy to keep the peace and lots of people paying taxes and stuff like that. I hate to leave now. We're finally down to nothing but 100% pure and loyal Americans. But the fact of the matter is there ain't no point to being president every 8th week with no perks or fringes. So I'm off to the big wide galaxy to see if anyone out there wants a guy with presidential experience. I'll be happy to take over the reins of any government that wants me, as long as it's white and Christian and mostly American and has a football team. In fact, I don't even have to be president. I got no serious objections to hiring on as king. Do me a favor and post this one last official message for me. And there was a printed sign saying, "Will the last person to leave the planet, please shut off the sun." I can't tell you how relieved the rest of us are. Bert was okay for a Baptist, but you know what they say about Baptists. Now, if we can just find a way to get rid of Myrtle Bremer and that Presbyterian claptrap she's always spouting, we'll finally have an America that I'm proud to be part of. The end.